in 5 minutes.
One day around 850 CE, a goat herd named Caldi observed that after nibbling on some berries, his goats started acting abnormally. Caldi tried them himself, and soon enough, he was just as hyper. This was humanity's first run-in with coffee, or so the
Really?
story goes. When exactly people began consuming coffee is unclear, but at some point before the 1400s, in what's now Ethiopia, people began foraging for wild coffee in the forest undergrowth.
Okay.
The reason coffee plants are equipped with lots of caffeine might be because it makes them unattractive to herbivores or more attractive to pollinators. But either way, people caught on to coffee's advantages and began making tea from its leaves, combining its berries with butter and salt for a sustaining snack, and drying, roasting, and simmering its cherries into an energizing elixir. Coffee rode trade routes into the Middle East, and its widespread popularity began brewing in earnest in the 1450s.
God damn,
Upon
that
returning
long?
from a visit to Ethiopia, a Sufi leader recommended that worshippers in Yemen use coffee during ritual chants and dances. Soon enough, people within the Ottoman Empire began roasting and grinding the beans to yield a darker, bolder beverage. Many gathered in guest houses and outside mosques to partake in coffee's comforts. But authorities grew concerned about whether coffee's influence was innocent or intoxicating, and
Innocent.
if Muslims should be allowed
Innocent.
to drink it.
What?
Indeed, in 1511,
Could
a
you imagine
religious
if coffee was illegal? They'd have a problem.
court in
They'd have
Mecca
a problem
put
with me.
coffee on trial. Scholars finally deemed it permissible, so coffee houses sprang up in Damascus, Istanbul, and beyond, where clientele could
Excuse
sip
me.
coffee, smoke, and enjoy a variety of entertainment.
So the combination is been coming from the 1450s. So it is. I was always saying that like it goes hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? It just got a little
By the
vibe
late
to it.
1500s, people in Yemen were farming coffee and exporting it from the port of Al Maha, which became known in other parts of the world as mocha. But coffee was eventually transported or smuggled into India and soon took root in Java and beyond.
Why you gotta smuggle it? Shit
Meanwhile,
was
the Ottoman Empire
man. This is proof that back in the day, if they can't make profit from it, it's illegal.
introduced the stimulating substance to Europe. Central London's first coffee houses opened in the 1650s. By 1663, there were more than 80, and
Whoa.
despite King Charles II's attempt to ban them in
He
1675, coffee
Fuck you,
houses
King Charles. Why are you trying to ban
kept
something so
simmering
good?
as social and intellectual hotbeds. In 1679, for instance, patrons of Garraway's Coffee House had the pleasure of watching Robert Hooke, the scientist who coined the term cell, publicly dissect a porpoise. In France, people began mixing coffee with milk and sugar, and throughout the 1700s,
Okay, so I got to thank France for that. Shout out to my French wee wee.
Paris's coffee houses hosted Enlightenment figures like Diderot and Voltaire, who allegedly drank 50 cups of coffee a day.
Okay, so that's proof that I'll survive and I can bump it up some more. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the
Granted,
information.
these were likely small servings of comparatively weak coffee.
Oh, okay, then I can't because mine isn't rather small, and as you can see, oh, well, you can't see, but yeah, chat, my shit's strong.
But still impressive. Meanwhile, European empires began profiting off coffee growing, establishing enslaved or exploited workforces in Asia,
Enslaved is
Latin
wow.
America, and the Caribbean. As cultivation boomed in Latin America,
Is that how Jamaica made its own coffee? We were enslaved to make that shit?
fueled by slavery, growers displaced indigenous populations and burned forests to establish ever-expanding plantations. By 1906, Brazil was exporting over 80% of the world's coffee.
Damn, thinking about this made me. How many plantations have I? Well, not plantations. How many? Yeah, plantations have I drove past that was built by slavery?
That same year,
That
the
makes me
Milan
think.
World's Fair showcased the first commercial espresso machine. And alongside the development of industrial roasting equipment came various coffee brands.
Fulgur's,
By the mid to roasting
I know
equipment
Folgers and
came
Maxwell's.
various
Is it Nescafe you
coffee.
just showed? Oh no, Arbuckles. I don't know Arbuckles. Arbuckles ground. I gotta try Arbuckles. I'm a coffee connoisseur, bro. I don't know Arbuckles. What the fuck is Arbuckles? Arbuckles coffee. Y'all deliver to Jamaica? It's Arabic. I'm gonna have to try this coffee for sure. I've never had this coffee before. Got to. I'll figure it out, chat. I'm gonna get it right here and try it with y'all. I'll let y'all know how it is. But I've had Maxwell House and
Brands.
Nescafe. I've had
By the
Maxwell
mid
House yesterday at my uncle's
1950s,
house,
about
actually.
60% of US factories incorporated coffee breaks. As African countries cut colonial ties, many ramped up coffee production. And coffee drinking also later made inroads in East Asia, especially as canned, pre-prepared beverages.
Mm-hmm.
In more recent decades, specialty coffees with an emphasis on quality beans and brewing methods grew popular and propelled farms in Central America and East Africa. Yet coffee workers worldwide continued to endure inhumane conditions and insufficient compensation. This motivated certification efforts for coffee production that met ethical standards, including minimum wage and sustainable farming. But issues still loom over the industry. And because of climate change, the equatorial bean belt where coffee thrives is projected to shrink in upcoming decades. It's
What?
unclear exactly what this might look like, but scientists are investigating possibilities like resilient coffee hybrids that might help weather the unpredictable future.
How do I support them? You're crazy. I shut up and take my money. Are you crazy? I don't know. Yo, I really wish I could just like this video just finds this scientist. Like,
To
let me know
protect the
how I can
beverage that's
support
become
you
a
and
cherished part of
what?
daily rituals
Anything to make sure we got coffee, bro.
worldwide.
I don't want to imagine a
So
life
why does
without coffee.
caffeine have that special effect on us? Find out with this
I don't want
video,
to know,
or
man. I feel like if you
trace
tell
the
me, I might. I don't want to know. I just want the effects. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to know. Do I really want to know? Ah, fuck it. Let's find out.
Over 100,000 metric tons of caffeine are consumed around the world every year. That's equivalent to the weight of 14 Eiffel Towers. Most of this caffeine is consumed in coffee and tea, but it's also ingested in some sodas, chocolate, caffeine pills, and even beverages labeled decaf. Caffeine helps us feel alert, focused, happy, and energetic, even if we haven't had enough sleep. But it can also raise our blood pressure and make us feel anxious. It's the world's most widely used drug. So how does it keep us awake? Caffeine evolved in plants, where it serves a few purposes. In high doses, as it's found in the leaves and seeds of certain species, it's toxic to insects. But when they consume it in lower doses, as it's found in nectar, it can actually help them remember and revisit flowers. In the human body, caffeine acts as a stimulant for the central nervous system. It keeps us awake by blocking one of the body's key sleep-inducing molecules, a substance called adenosine. Your body needs a constant supply of energy, which it gets by breaking down a high-energy molecule called ATP. In the process, it liberates adenosine, ATP's chemical backbone. Neurons in your brain have receptors perfectly tailored to this molecule. When adenosine docks to these receptors, it activates a cascade of biochemical reactions that cause neurons to fire more sluggishly and slow the release of important brain signaling molecules. In other words, you get sleepy. Caffeine is what's called an adenosine receptor antagonist. That means it derails this process of slowing your neurons down by blocking adenosine receptors. Caffeine and adenosine have a similar molecular structure, close enough that caffeine can wedge into the adenosine receptors, but not close enough to activate them. To summarize, adenosine inhibits your neurons. Caffeine inhibits the inhibitor, so it stimulates you. Caffeine can
Interesting.
also boost positive feelings. In some neurons, the adenosine receptors are linked to receptors for another molecule called dopamine. One of dopamine's roles in the brain is to promote feelings of pleasure. When adenosine docks in one of these paired receptors, that can make it harder for dopamine to fit in its own spot, interrupting its mood-lifting work. But when caffeine takes adenosine's place, it doesn't have the same effect, and dopamine can slide in.
So that, bro, that explains so much.
There's
This
evidence that
explains so
caffeine's
much.
effects on adenosine and dopamine receptors can have long-term benefits too, reducing the risk of diseases like
So basically, if I drink caffeine all day, it's a bitter day.
Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and some types of cancer.
Say that again. Hold
Dopamine
on.
receptors can have long-term benefits too. Effects on dopamine can slide in. There's evidence that caffeine's effects on adenosine and dopamine receptors can have long-term benefits too, reducing the risk of diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and some types of cancer.
What coffee can reduce the risk of
Diseases like Parkinson's,
Parkinson's,
Alzheimer's, and
Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and some type of cancer?
some types of cancer.
Y'all shouldn't have made me learn this stuff.
Caffeine can also ramp up the body's ability to burn fat. In fact, some sports organizations think that caffeine gives athletes an unfair advantage and have placed limits on its consumption. From 1972 until 2004, Olympic athletes had to stay below a certain blood caffeine concentration to compete. Of course, not all of caffeine's effects are so helpful. It might make you feel better and more alert, but it can also raise your heart rate and blood pressure, cause increased urination or diarrhea, and contribute to insomnia and anxiety. Plus, the foods and beverages caffeine is found in have their own impacts on your body that have to be taken into account. Your brain can adapt to regular consumption of caffeine. If your adenosine receptors are perpetually clogged, your body will manufacture extra ones. That way, even with caffeine around, adenosine can still do its job of signaling the brain to power down. That's why you may find you need to consume more and more caffeine to feel as alert. There are more and more adenosine receptors to block. It's also why if you suddenly quit caffeine, you may experience an unpleasant withdrawal. With plenty of receptors and no competition, adenosine can work overtime, causing symptoms like headaches, tiredness, and depressed moods. But in a few days, the extra adenosine receptors will disappear. Your body will readjust, and you'll feel just as alert as ever, even without an infusion of the world's most popular stimulant.
That's something.